Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of An Astrologer's Calling, where we talk to astrologers from all over the world about how they were called into what they're doing, and we explore their personal journeys as well as many other anything they have to share, to be honest. So today I'm delighted to introduce Liz Hathway, who is based in Amsterdam but originally from South Wales in the UK. And you will absolutely love her accent, I do. So Liz is a fabulous astrologer. She consults. She's a fabulous mundane astrologer, and I've had the pleasure of collaborating with her in World Scope, which is run by Rod Chan, and we do that once a month. So Liz holds the coveted diploma from the oldest astrological teaching institute in the world, the Faculty of Astrological Studies in London. She's got a Master of Arts with distinction in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology from the University of Wales in Lampeter. Liz has published numerous articles on mundane astrology in the likes of the Astrological Journal and Dutch language astrological publications. And of course, Liz is, an international speaker at conferences too. And I've probably sold her a little bit short there. But anyway, let's get stuck into Liz's story. So thank you for sharing your time today with us all, Liz. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome,
And
Leanne.
how are you called to astrology?
Well, yeah, okay. So as you said, I'm Welsh, and Welsh people are kind of in a way quite attracted to, I think, all things occult. So as a child, I mean, I was always aware of people that read tea leaves or that read hands. And my grandmother was said to have second sight. So there was always an opening to things, if you like, that are not general mainstream, sort of, what you believe in, sort of thing. But my mother also used to buy Moore's Almanac. I don't know if you know this, but my mother used to love all of the predictions for the year ahead. And I remember she used to read it to my grandfather who lived with us. So astrology, I didn't know at the time when she was reading from Moore's Almanac that it was actually astrology, by the way. But it was all about predictions, and that's kind of quite exciting when you're a child. That's sort of, that you can foretell the future almost. Let me think. Yeah, when I was 11, different generation to you, there was still 11 plus in the UK, and I went to an all-girls grammar school. And that very year, Linda Goodman's sun sign crossed the pond and was published in the UK. So what have you got? You've got a whole gangs of puberal girls in an all-girls school, and you've got Linda Goodman's sun signs, right? So what is everybody doing? They're reading about themselves, about their love life, etc. So that kind of book, and actually, even though I hated what she said about Capricorn, I modeled myself completely on Pisces, completely. I even gave myself a different birth date. I was a Pisces. I was going to be a Pisces because they were the sign to be. But that sort of kind of warmed me to astrology, and ever since actually, it's been there. Even though, kind of, if you look back to I'm talking about the early 70s, there was no internet. I came from a small place, so we didn't have esoteric bookshops. We didn't have anything like that. So, you had to stumble across things. And I stumbled across this book, which I'm going to show you now. This isn't the original copy I had, but this book, which is called Astrology for the Millions, which I picked up the original copy for this in a jumble sale. And it was a revelation because in the back of it, you can calculate your ascendant, your moon sign, everything. So suddenly, from knowing everybody's sun signs around me, I was suddenly able to find out the ascendant and the rest. So this was all, I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I was like seriously dabbling, shall we say, in astrology. But this is an excellent book actually by Grant Levi. He's an astrologer who predicted his own death, died very young, far too young, but a great book and a great astrologer, great astrologer. So anyway, I don't know. I mean, I'm Welsh, right? So I can talk forever, so I'm going to let you have a word in now, Liana. So but
No,
that's how
no,
it started.
no, that's brilliant, Liz, because it's it's a theme that the sun signs pull us in. Okay. And I know sun sign astrology can be demeaned a little. And I'll always say when it's done well, it can be brilliant. But if it wasn't for that, many astrologers wouldn't be doing what they're doing today. So I think alone that the value of that is absolutely priceless. And of course, Linda Goodman was just a revelation at the time. I think she was the first publication to make so much money, wasn't it?
She
It
got
was
on the Times bestseller, didn't she? She was number one.
exactly,
Yeah, 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 she did.
exactly. So I think we owe Linda Goodman a lot of thanks. What did you say about Capricorn? I'm
Oh, well, it
interested
just so
now.
happened. Here's the book. And
Yeah, tell
yeah,
me.
I mean, some awful things, about the melancholic nature and, how Saturn will rule our actions and, that we're very stiff. And, oh, this was the bit that I really didn't like. One of the things I've underlined, a steely determination to snag the right man who can become important, make her proud, and be a good father to her children. I mean, there was so much of that sort of ambitious through the man, get your nose
Wow.
ahead, a stiffness. And also, she talks a lot about our lives being determined by Saturn, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's kind of quite, it's not playful, it's not fun.
No,
But as
no.
you said, I mean, Goodman, not only did she write sun signs, but if you look at her book Guberts, which is not an astrology book, but you'll see she was deeply embedded in all things New Age before
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was big. She was doing candle magic and all sorts of things.
yeah,
So she was completely, a 70s New Age guru in a way.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Fascinating woman, actually, in
yeah,
Aries, as you probably know, but she was
yeah.
a really fascinating woman. Yeah.
I think that that Capricorn is a bit of the time, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
still of that sort of very patriarchal society where women were expected to find a man to keep them, etc., and raise their status and all that,
Yeah.
type of
Yeah.
thing. And I
Absolutely.
think if I'm
Absolutely.
sure if Linda lived today, she'd probably write that very differently. But it's when you look back, it's quite funny, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine you
In a
wanted to be
Pisces
quite a
woman who I
spicy
wanted to
one.
be, she had to beat the men off with a stick. They were all like bees around the honeypot. And when you're like, 12, 13, that's what you imagine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's kind of where you fancy, because we had no boys at school or anything.
yeah,
We were in this
yeah,
very kind of like closed off world.
yeah,
Really. It was a great school, by the way, but
yeah,
it was very straight, sort of
yeah.
grounded, very. But yeah, that so from where I am coming through, from the generation that I'm part of, I think the journey to becoming an astrologer is completely different than people that are coming in after internet, for example, or
Oh,
after,
absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Um, yeah. So how did you, obviously you had this interest from that we've just discussed. So then how did you make the shift to studying formally,
yeah.
etc.?
I had I'll tell you, I had a really interesting encounter in the 80s with Steve Judd, who had a Dutch partner. So I remember Steve Judd trying to teach me how to draw charts, because he's quite mercurial. He's got Mercury in Gemini. So but I really, I couldn't grasp it. He's very quick. He's very quick in her. So I went and learned Dutch, basically, because there was one of the reasons for me to learn Dutch was there was a course in a place called the Cosmos, because I was living in Amsterdam. I moved here when I was 23. And I saw a course, but it was in Dutch. It was a 2-year course, and I wanted to do it because I wanted to, just have the structure as well. Because I was an autodidact for many years. And then I'd give all my books away, and then I'd be at my neighbours asking, can I look in that book? So I thought, look, I'm hooked. Let's structure it. So Yeah, that would have been like 88, that sort of period. But yeah, at that time, it was still like hand-drawn charts. Like
Yeah, 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 yeah,
you'd
yeah.
order, these
Yeah,
sort of sheets, and then you'd fill it in. But that was a lot better for me with a group, sort of doing it slowly, slowly, catchy monkey. I was able to figure out how you actually worked out the ascent. It was all equal house, of course, because it's
yeah,
easy.
yeah.
But yeah, that 2 years there, which was she was a great teacher, but she had been taught herself by an American astrologer. So it was quite modern. It was quite a modern approach to astrology. So yeah, that was the late 80s. And from there, yeah, moved on to the Faculty of Astrological Studies, which in that time was this kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
So it
yeah.
was all you had to write your lesson, hope it didn't get lost in the post, send it off to your tutor,
Yeah,
and wait and like, where's the post? When
yeah,
gonna hear back? And that was how it went then. Slowly, slowly.
yeah,
But yeah, so eventually, you start doing charts for people, and there's not
yeah.
at that point. It's not like now where you've got a crowded marketplace as well.
Mhm.
Actually, there were a lot less people, or at least people had less access, easy access to
Yeah.
astrologers. So if you were doing it, you automatically stood out a bit, oh, you can ask her, she'll do your chart for you.
Yeah, yeah. It's that's really interesting because you've just showed like the printed paper there and how you had to post them and wait for the
Yeah,
results and the feedback from your tutor or whoever. And I imagine in that waiting time, you would be studying. You would be thinking about the next report or assignment that you had and studying without the benefit necessarily of the internet.
yeah,
And I think the time invested in that study is priceless. Whereas today, with the internet, it's so easy to get the information at you just press a button, don't you? And
yeah,
it's a rush, rush, rush to soak up as much information as possible and in as short a time as possible.
mm,
And I don't know if that's necessarily, I think it's possibly counterproductive. What do you
yeah.
think, Liz?
I think you've got a point there.
Mm.
Because I remember, like with the diploma, one of the exams I failed it twice, which included mundane astrology. Actually, was in that module. And as a result, you could keep going back over that stuff, and you keep going back over that stuff, and you keep going back over that stuff. And as a result, yeah, you get to know it very well. You get to know it on a quite a deep level in a way. It
Yeah.
becomes very much a part of you in a way, So I think you could in life, and it's good to be thankful for your failures because they can
Oh, yeah.
they can give you a lot as well. We are Capricorn speaking here, but yeah, you learn a lot from the things that don't work, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I always say that when things are too easy, we don't necessarily learn. I don't think we learn
No,
more from what goes wrong
exactly,
than what goes
exactly.
right at times.
Yeah. Well, you
So
see
yeah,
it in practice, don't you? I mean, I always think when people have got all the trines and all the lovely aspects going on in their chart, they've got no
where's the growth?
astrologer. It's when they've got Pluto square the moon, or they've, Uranus, something happening in the chart which is shaking life up. Then that's where the clientele is, isn't it? That's where your clients come from. It's from people going through something that they want to have some perspective on it. How can I see beyond this situation that I'm in?
Yeah. Yeah, 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 absolutely. When life's too easy, people can just float through it. But there's not that sense of growth either. It's the challenge that brings growth, for sure.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
people do tend to come to an astrologer when they're in a time of challenge or trauma or, difficulty. So, but ultimately, yeah, that's where the growth comes from. So.
I think so too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I remember reading something years ago in a book, and I cannot remember where it was, about people wanting to have T squares in their chart because of the potential that the T
Mm.
square would
Yeah,
bring.
yeah,
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 it just
yeah, yeah.
captures.
Yeah, the Tracy Marks book, didn't you? All about T-squares.
Yeah, that's it. It's Tracy. Yeah, the
Yeah,
T
yeah, and that
Tracy Ross,
really
yeah.
kind of associated T-squares with people that are going to be ambitious and go-getter,
Yeah,
and so everybody indeed was like, yeah.
yeah,
But anyway, to resume my journey,
yeah,
so yeah, there's a certain point where you've exhausted all your colleagues and friends, and you've done all your bosses, and you're kind of thinking, right, what's the next step now? How am I going to lift it to the next level? And so what I did at various places in Amsterdam was I did um, on the spot consults. So my first on the spot, this would have been about 2000, maybe, no, my son was still in a pushchair. So it would have been, yeah, about 1999, that sort of time. And I started on the Zeedijk in Amsterdam. So there was a kind of a new age shop there. It's a whole story as well about the guy who owns it. But I won't go there. But anyway, so that gives you an opportunity to have a lot of people, and you don't know them, and they're just coming in for an on-the-spot consult. So I was there for about a year, and then because I had that experience, I went to the Rose, which the Rose is the biggest spiritual center in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, actually, not just in Amsterdam. And I kind of started doing consults there once a week in the Sarah. And there again, I think I did that for quite a few years. Then you start to, what's really good about that is you are putting your cards out there, your business cards, because everybody who comes, so you're going out literally, physically into the world. But also you are getting so much experience because, for example, I'd find this one day stands out in my mind. It was a Moon in Virgo day. And everybody who came in that day was somehow involved in care, was somehow either they were a nurse or they were, sort of working as a pediatrician but everybody, and that is something that I started to notice as well, that the position of the moon and
yeah,
aspects on a day, that would be reflected in the people that came in to see me, so I did that for a number of years, and it's always who so from there I took a step into sun signs, writing sun signs for the first online dating site in the Netherlands, which was called One Hello. I was their in-house astrologer. So I had a rubric, a column every week in there called Astro and Cupido, in which I would talk about the love interest story of the week.
yeah,
And I'd also be doing, they used to have these really big parties, for couples to meet. By this time, internet was coming out, by the way. So I used to have a spot there, and I'd be doing couples and again, very much on the spot, So I did that for a number of years as well, until the company was sold. They sold it to Relatie Planet, which is a much bigger concern. And from there, I moved into this kind of group called One Hello that were doing, it was like an organization that hosted blogs because blogs were just coming out. It was the first blogs. So I had a astrology blog, which they hosted, and yeah, it used to generate income for me as well because of the advertising on it. And they had a very big network because they had loads of blogs, everything from fashion, food, you name it, the whole gamut of things, wine, So it was a large group and you'd get advertised via their site. So you can see how actually, if you stick at something, I think how it works is a path opens up for you in a way.
yeah, yeah,
You don't even have to, at a certain point, you're really not having to do too much anymore. It's like you forged the path and,
yeah,
things just keep, opening and whatever from that.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, over many, many years, I would say I've built up a good client base of people, from just from being around for a long time, really,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
stay.
yeah, and I think it's compared to someone starting out today where nearly everything is online, you came from that foundation of in person.
Yeah.
contact,
Yeah.
which is a beautiful way to build up that client base for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
what would you say astrology's brought to you on a personal level?
Gosh, that's a difficult one. On one side, I mean, honestly, I was just thinking about the other day, the richness of the people I've met.
Mhm.
I mean, I've crossed paths. I just had a client this week now who's a ballroom dancer, but really, like up there ballroom dancer. And afterwards, I was looking at some of her YouTube films, and I was thinking, wow, I met this woman. I talked with her. And it's just been such a rich clientele that I've had over the years. I mean, you name it, really, all sorts. And that in itself is just such a gift, to have had those meetings with all of these people, it's fascinating. And I always wonder, how did you find me? Where did you come from,
Yeah.
Because yeah, I used to, I don't know if you know, but I also had a YouTube for a number of years. So I did try that and, but the last few years, I had a very difficult triple Mars return, which is the only time in my life I've had a triple Mars return, which was in 2020, was it 2021? I think Mars did a station on my Mars. It did a long stay in Aries. And that was combined with the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto conjunction in Capricorn, which was on my Sun and
Mhm.
opposite my moon. So I had this big T square with Mars stationing on my Mars in the sixth house. So
Yeah.
I knew this was, I kind of knew in advance this could be a health crisis. And it
Mhm.
really was. That's exactly how it manifested. And the good thing there, again, what has astrology given me? Well, there's a classic one there, because knowing that that was going on made me very aware of anything happening physically in my body,
Yeah.
and that really meant that I was ahead of things, which
Yeah.
I'm ever thankful for. So, but I mean, coming out of that, because it was a kind of quite, that whole transit was massive. And coming out of it, I have like taken a big step back. Also, I mean, I'm of an age and I've got, I'm a pensionader, I would say. So I can cherry pick. I love doing rod. I love doing that. I teach now for a school here, the Hermetic Cosmos. So I've got my projects and I've got, and I'm open to new clients always. But I was talking to Faye about it the other day, that drive that I used to definitely have, that push forward to achieve whatever. I do not have that anymore, and I'm not sorry about it. And I remember having it. I know what it feels like, and I feel like I'm in a good spot now. I'm quite content with what is, as I say, I have a rich client. I have new clients. I'm enjoying that. Rod, I love the
Yeah.
mundane thing.
Yeah.
Anything mundane, and I'm up for it, just because I love it so much.
Yeah.
But I'm not sort of planning, I'm busy with a book, of course, that is
Yeah.
still, as it is. It's a Saturn book, right? It's a
Mm.
book about Saturn, my relationship with Saturn. So, I mean, is there any surprise that it's a slow burner? You know what I mean? Not really. But yeah, it will get there when it gets there.
Yeah, but it's lovely what you just said about you're content with the rhythm of your life at the moment and the season of your life that you're
Yeah,
in. And
yeah,
obviously that huge momentous transit that you just described was a
yeah.
reset, I guess, in
It was
some ways. A
massive.
deep
Yeah,
reset. Yeah, it was huge, yeah. And it's lovely to actually you don't often speak to anyone saying that they feel content with
yeah.
where their life is at. So I think that
Yeah.
gives people hope. Definitely that, because life is seasonal. It is. And but
Yeah.
that drive is still there burning away in that Saturn book, without a doubt. But there's
Burn, it's a slow burner, but
no pressure, there's no rush, is there?
no,
That's the
not really.
beautiful. place to be in. Yeah, really
I think that,
lovely.
that T-square, because I've got like a really close T-square, the maximum orb in that, cardinal T-square, Sun, Moon, Mars, Mars in Aries. I think the maximum is about 1.5 degree in that.
Wow, it's
So
tight.
it's
Yeah.
very tight. So Mars has always been, and Mars also rules my ascendant, and it rules my North Node in the first house. I'm Scorpio rising, North Node.
Yeah.
So it's a big Mars. So that triple transit over Mars there
Yeah.
was so the only time, because Mars it's got a kind of cycle of long stays when it does its whole retrograde within the same
Mm.
sign. And I saw that one coming. I just saw it coming because I knew this was going to be a one-off. And I looked at the rest and I just thought, well, this is going to be big. This is going to be
Yeah.
big, and
Yeah.
so it's
So it's
great.
like heads up really. And it's Mars and Aries heads up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I
Yeah.
think definitely astrology can give you that. And I think what you can do with clients, at least how I work, if I see they're having a bit of a hard time, but I'm looking down the road and I'm thinking, God, look what's coming. You're going to get a tremendous lift there.
Yeah.
You can get
Yeah.
round that corner, just turn that
Yeah.
corner there, and it's going to be whoa,
Yeah.
So you can really give clients as well some faith in their own
Definitely. Yeah.
path, that things will, what will be, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't believe in that a bit, I don't think I'm hugely, I think we can co-create to a certain extent, but I think there's a level at which, fate
Yeah.
takes its
Definitely.
journey, that will happen. That will,
Yeah.
and it's difficult because everybody wants to control everything. That's why I think astrology is so popular now. We live in a very uncertain world. So astrology gives you this sense
Exactly.
of you've got something to
Yeah.
hold on to. But I
Yeah.
mean, on the other hand, there's things that happen, intervention of things
Yeah.
destined to make you go from that to there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something does that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But you're right, if you can just get around this corner, this tight spot, things are going to open up and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think that's the one big thing, well, one of the big things that astrology can give you is that sense of perspective. It might be
Yeah.
difficult, but look behind you where you've been. You've already had two Neptune squares. You've only got one left. You know what I mean? You've been at journey's
Exactly.
end. Don't worry, you're coming out of it, and look what's coming down the road. It's
Exactly.
nice. It's nice to be able to offer that sort of,
I know. It's one of the gifts, I think. It's a treasure being able to sort of share that perspective
yeah, definitely.
with people without a doubt. So, come on, you must have lots of really profound stories.
I
Well,
just gave you one. I just
I
gave you
think
the
you've
big
just
one.
given me a very
I'll tell
profound
you what I
one.
used to do when I was a lot younger then, right?
Yeah.
What I used to like to do was I'd like to tempt fate. So I can remember when Pluto was in Sag and it was going across my Saturn in Sag. And I thought, right, they just opened the Channel Tunnel. And I thought, on the day that is, as it's going to be exact, I'm going to be sat in that tunnel. And at that time, I really, so I did it. And of course, I suddenly felt like really nervous because this is a big transit,
Yeah.
all right? But it was absolutely amazing. You're not going to believe it. But guess who was sat next to me in the train?
It's got to be someone quite Pluto or Saturn. Who is it?
A nun. A nun. I had a nun sat next to me.
Sagittarius.
Yeah, and because I was a bit
Going
nervous,
through a tunnel.
yeah, yeah, I had an, and I was a bit nervous, so I talked to her a lot. So I had this enormous conversation, as people used to then, we weren't all sat like as we are now, you
Yeah, yeah,
talk
yeah,
to
yeah,
people. So I
yeah.
sat next to her and we had a good old natter, which was great. So I used to like to tempt fate, and do things. And, I try to choose an activity that somehow embodied the planets, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
just to see what the fates had in store for me, and yeah, it was just a great trip. It was just I am a little, the one exception I would have, I guess, is I am a little bit with eclipses. I've had a few eclipse lessons, which I'm not going to go into here because I don't want to step on anybody's toes. But yeah, eclipses I find when they're really prominent in your chart, it's for me. I often find things pan out different than you expected. So if I can
Yeah,
choose
yeah,
another day, I will. You know, if you
yeah,
have to do it, you'll do it. But if I can move around then,
yeah,
in terms of decision making or whatever,
yeah, 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 absolutely. Absolutely. No, I agree about the eclipses. And
yeah,
it's lovely to work with the energies if possible. And like
yeah,
you say, if you can sort of give a few days grace either side of something challenging like that, brilliant. But oh,
yeah,
that story about going through the Channel Tunnel when it's
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
hundreds
No,
of years.
yeah,
A lot of people
definitely.
would have just like hidden in the house for a few days.
Yeah. Oh no, I've got
Danger.
Mars in Aries, right? Get
That's
out
really
there.
daring
You're
it,
gonna really give it, you know. So
but
I did
daring.
used to be very, you know, like use astrology in that way, you know, sort of like to co-create and make things happen.
Yeah,
And, you know,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's just something I've just always, well, it's like I've said, really, it's always kind of been there,
yeah,
you know, and it always will be, you know. And I think what I'd like to do now probably is pass on knowledge, you know. So like last Saturday I was at a small conference here for a Dutch
yeah.
um, group of professional astrologers. And what's really brilliant about this group is they're all very young, you know. So when you look out quite often at conferences into the crowd, you know, it's quite a lot of grey hairs there.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? And this is not like that. So the new head honcho of this club is 27. So she's the
Oh,
same age as my
wow.
son. I mean, she's a really bright spark. She really is. She studied, I think, I don't know, theosophy or something, you know, at the university. So she's very bright. But you know, a lot of this people that were sat there knew nothing about mundane astrology. They'd never used it. You know, they're all young.
Yeah,
So we were, you know, looking at the Dutch election, which is on the 29th, and
yeah,
showing, you know, different charts and chart of the Netherlands and talking through, you know, what's happening in the collective. I mean, the number of people afterwards that came up and said, wow, what book can I get? I really enjoyed that. And I had a few emails as well from people that were there, sort of again, you know, oh, I've tried this, what you were talking about. And yeah, yeah. I think that kind of like, because I remember Christine Skinner doing that for me actually at one point for mundane astrology. She really kicked me off on that
yeah,
because of the
yeah,
whole issue with getting my diploma. I went to an exam training for the faculty in London. And that was under a Saturn Pluto aspect as well. It might have been a square, right? I can't remember. It's a long time ago. It would have been in the early 90s. And I went into her lecture. I
yeah,
always remember Saturn Pluto, back to basics. You know, you chip everything
yeah,
away.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's just so, once you get somebody introduce you to something like mundane astrology, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
you know, because we have to be so cautious with clients. You don't want to say, you know, because there's nothing worse, is there, than having a client who's seen another astrologer who's told them your life is going to change it when you know, and it hasn't, you know, that can be really worrisome.
Yeah,
But yeah, so she actually got me really into mundane
yeah,
astrology. It really kind of got me much more interested in it. And I think that's a good thing to stimulate, you know, to stimulate yeah, younger astrologers who are coming through.
yeah. And I have no doubt you would have inspired them at that conference, Liz. And it was the in-person experience. People are craving more in person, I think.
Do you think so,
Definitely.
Liana?
Yeah.
Because I mean you're out there a lot. You're doing,
Yeah.
you know, are you seeing a lot of younger people coming through when you go to conferences these days?
Yeah, yeah, we've still got a lot of grey hairs. Nothing
Which
wrong
is
with
good.
that. They've
Yeah.
got so much wisdom to share. But yeah, there's a lot of young people come to conferences and they're really loving the just sort of not being online on Zoom, and they can get selfies with astrologers,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So every conference I've been to this year in person, you know, the audience want to get selfies. They've got that real physical experience that they're meeting someone that can hopefully inspire them.
Yeah.
Which, of course, we're so lucky we can do all of that online on Zoom, but
Yeah.
it's just extra special when it's in
Yeah.
person. It really
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a different dynamic, isn't there?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So, before we finish, any words of wisdom for anyone regarding the current or near, short to just what's going on in the astrological weather?
You mean with regard to, well, because I mean, I've just done a deep dive into Dutch politics, so politics are really sort of my thing at the moment. But what I'm loving about all of what's happening at the moment is that we can really start to see Pluto and Aquarius working through it
Yeah,
in the level of engagement.
yeah,
Because even though a lot of people that are getting engaged in politics at the moment might not be the people that are following our politics, they might be coming from a completely different angle.
yeah,
They're still getting involved and they weren't before. So you can see this sort of rising up of
yeah,
groups and tribes, and this is like, and even though it brings a lot of fallout with it as well, but I think the thing that I really like about it is that it is bringing people in to, activity, into interest in what's going on, into wanting to change things on any level. And yeah, I'm waiting for what, Barbeau said about that big grand trine we've got, because he said it was going to be one of the biggest and best aspects, of this
okay,
century.
yeah, yeah,
So, let's see. I mean, let's see. I mean, so far it's manifesting as AI, isn't it? Really, a lot of issues around that,
mm,
and drones and all the rest of it. But I think that political engagement and that people are waking up and stirring and,
yeah,
starting
yeah,
to engage, and even though it's very tribal in a way, things are moving, and I think that is really going to be, a nice ride for us
yeah, yeah,
over
yeah.
the coming years. I'm kind of excited by it and looking forward to it. I see it as a kind of a sort of going to the fairground and getting into one of those really scary rides,
Buckle up,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
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 it's going to be a
yeah.
ride. Absolutely. Yeah, change is
Fantastic.
coming,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
we can either move into it
yeah,
or lose out, I think.
yeah.
And change isn't always comfortable. Let's not sugarcoat it, but it's coming.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
definitely. That Pluto and Sag generation, the Gen Z people, they're really moving up. Huh?
yeah,
A lot of them are
yeah,
the ones that are, protesting in Nigeria or in different places in the world. They're young people.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's the Pluto and Sag, they want the truth, get the truth out there, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
I
it is.
love them. I think they're
Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant generation coming up. Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
So, any exciting projects? I know you're sort of working on your Saturn book, but anything other than that? Any conferences, talks you'd
No,
like
yeah,
to share?
just like with the lessons I'm giving,
Mm.
I'm going to be changing the shape of those in the next week. That's my task for the next week or so. And I'm also doing some systemic work at the moment, which is a bit like family constellation. So I'm just doing a training with that at the moment on
Yeah.
Saturdays, because that I find really interesting as well. But no, I'm off on holiday next year in February, so that's looming now to
Yeah.
Thailand and Japan with my daughter.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm just sort of yeah, I've just had a really busy time the last weeks, and so I like to do a kind of breathe in where I, do a lot, and then
Yeah.
so I'm doing a breathe out at the moment. So I've got a few small projects. I want to write something up. I've got a few writing projects. There's always usually a writing thing. I do write for the Cosmic Intelligence Agency. I've tried
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah,
write for them quite regularly. So yeah, there's always, and I want to really start focusing on my own blog, because the last years I've neglected my core people, I'm doing a lot for other people. But I
yeah.
think if I look at my solar for next year, five planets, I think in Capricorn in my fifth house. So I think, yeah, that's it. Next year, it's going to be, do you know what I mean? The creative hub is there, my own.
Yeah.
What am I?
Or your stage. It will be your stage,
I need to get back
definitely.
to myself, I've just
Yeah.
been out there doing a lot of things for other people and
Yeah.
enjoying it, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'd like to take a bit of a check back in on myself and what do I
Yeah.
want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, fabulous. Well, I wish you all the best and thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing this with everyone and providing yet more inspiration. So take care, Liz, and I'm sure we'll
You.
catch up very
Yeah.
soon on a Friday World Scope,
Yeah.
probably with
Yeah.
Rod.
Yeah. Thank you,
Okay.
Liana.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take care.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.